Super progressive. What is good? What is good? All right. So I've seen these kind of tier lists all around YouTube, specifically the Star Wars channels I watch pretty religiously. So I thought it would be fun to do it for every Global Underground album. There may have been like a few that I missed, but I pretty much have every City series, I think every spin-off series involving an artist, and obviously New Breed. So with that, before we start, I just want to say two things. First things first, everybody on this list, even if I rank their album low on the list, has made a bigger contribution to this music that we all love. They've made a bigger contribution than I could ever make in my entire life. I could ever dream of making. So I just want to say, I don't mean any disrespect if I rank an album low. It's not that I think, lowly of them as an artist. This is just me ranking my favorite, albums for fun. So mad respect to everybody on the list, first of all. Second of all, there's one person who won't show up on the list that I want to show love to, and that is the Global Underground creator, Andy Horsfeld, because, he's not going to show up on the list, but without him, we wouldn't have all of these albums that we all love so much. So I'm repping my Global Underground shirt. Let's get into it. I'm going to time-lapse my decisions, and then I'll go through my favorite ones. Let's go. Okay, so let's start with my all-time favorite Global Underground album, which is in this S tier rank, and that is Nick Warren's GU 24 in Reykjavik. I love this mix album, so many different reasons. Main one being, this was the mix album. It was one of the first Global Undergrounds I ever heard, and it's definitely the mix album that taught me, this music isn't always banging, fast-paced, emotions from huge drops. CD1 is like such a slow build. I mean, the first 4 tracks are probably my favorite intro to, one of my favorite intros to any mix album ever, starting with Avatar's Dub in Time. But for me, my favorite track included in any Global Underground, Ulrich Schnausch's Nobody's Home. This mix will always hold such a special place in my heart, and that's why not only is it in the top tier, but it's also probably my favorite mix album ever from the Global Underground series. We have Sasha San Francisco up here as well, obviously. I mean, I don't even know if I have to explain myself for this one, but some people, a lot of people say this is their favorite mix album in Global Underground, their all-time favorite. And the tracks are amazing. I love Medway's Resurrection. I love Quivers' Everything's Not You. I guess he did it as the Stoneproof alias, but Everything's Not You, Quivers Space Mix, which I've done a reaction for. Love that track. Beyond the music too, because Global Underground, yes, the music reigns supreme, but it's also about the photography of Dean Belcher. It's also about Dom Phillips's legendary album notes, and San Francisco has my all-time favorite photo of the clubber holding out the lighter for Sasha's cigarette. And to me, that's what Global Underground is all about. So I put them in the top tier. I mean, come on. GU10, Danny Tenaglia in Athens. My ancestors are Greek. Danny T is my boss, but that's not the reason why I'm putting it on the top tier. It's self-explanatory. There's so many moments in this mix. He was the first American DJ featured in the series, and I found this mix. I can picture this mix when it came out to be so unpredictable, and Danny blends together all these different genres in such a timeless way. Automatic S tier. Moving on to Danny Howells. Danny Howell's GU27 in Miami. Outside of Nick Warden's CD1 in Reykjavik, I honestly think Danny Howell's Miami CD1 is my favorite individual CD in any Global Underground. I love the vibes, and for that CD alone, it brings that album to top tier for me. John Digweed in Sydney, again, I believe he opens up this mix with Imagination, and then I got to pull up the tracks to refresh my memory quickly. Okay, next we have John Digweed in Sydney, and I think this album is special for me. One, I love the story behind it. It's Dean Belcher's first album that he did photography for, so that's why you see that iconic album cover that became kind of the symbol for what Global Underground would become as a brand. And also just the music is just next level. I think Imagination 1 is my all-time favorite intro track on a Global Underground album. And it's just John doing what he does best. So I put that in S tier. Paul Oakenfold, New York, GU7. I mean, up there with one of my all-time favorite mixes. So many moments. What stands out in my mind is Nayland and Kane's remix of Lustrals. Every time. There's so many good tracks on there. The Jamie Myerson track. So many amazing moments. Also, I just love the backstory of Paul's history of when he was a kid going to New York City and, going to the Paradise Garage, working as a delivery man in New York City, and then coming back to be, to choose New York as a superstar DJ all those years later. Really awesome mix, and it's just Paul at the peak of his powers, in my opinion, and this mix is undeniable. John Digweed, Los Angeles Next, S tier, automatic. I was always really drawn to this mix because, when I launched Super Progressive, I was living in LA. I used to walk by the Chinese Theater or wherever they did, I used to walk by on Hollywood Boulevard, the Mayan Theater, where this mix was, where the live show that inspired this mix took place. And you can't even bring up this mix. It's like I've learned so much over the past few weeks even. Just got to interview Paul Folder about Apollo Vibes. That Apollo Vibes into Satoshi Tomi, John Creamer, and Stephen K remix of Love and Traffic is just, probably my favorite transition in Global Underground history. Also, we have Voyager's remix of Aria 1, which I got to, talk to Voyager about and listen to with him. And that was super special. So, yeah, that mix has always been at the top for me. So it was an obvious choice. Next, we got Sasha, Global Underground 13, Ibiza, of course. Don't even need to go into that, but it's tracks like Sander Kleinenberg's My Lexicon that initially made me fall in love with this music. And he was one of the first DJs I ever got to interview, and he's so freaking cool to me. And that moment in this mix is so special to me. And I just also love the risk that Andy and GU and Sasha all took together to do a freaking underground album in a place like Ibiza, which was, I wasn't alive. I was alive, but I was just a toddler. But at that time, Ibiza started to get more and more commercial, and it was kind of a risky choice, and it paid off dividends. Sasha sitting on top of space with his hand up. I think of Dom Phillips's album notes on the back of the album where he's like, jets flying above, but we don't need those because Sasha's providing his own jet tracks or whatever he said. It's just so on the money. The picture of the clubber with the spiked hair and the Union Jack shirt giving the finger with his fucking nails painted black. I'm like, dude, this is everything I love about this scene. Next, we have John Digweed's Hong Kong. I mean, to me, this is probably his most, and I might be wrong, but I think it's his most like banging mix that he's done for Global Underground. And I just say this because the last two tracks, Bedrock's Heaven Sent, the Evolution mix, and then Into Quivers she does. It's like a jolt of electricity to end CD2. And listen, I'm welcoming all the hate for just sticking both of Sasha and John's Sasha's 2 albums and John's 3 albums in the S tier. But like, it is what it is. I'm new to this, and these albums freaking rocked my world. So I have no shame in call me basic, call me normal, call me a normie, call me whatever you want. You know, those 5 albums are just so elite for me. So I threw it up there. Oh my gosh. James Lavelle, GU23 in Barcelona. This for me was like almost like with Nick Warren's Reykjavik, GU24. I mean, 23 and 24 back-to-back is my all-time favorite combination of albums. Even more than 13 in Ibiza and 14 in Hong Kong, just because of how unique both entries are. James Lavelle doing his whole different trip-hop fucking crazy-ass beats. Like, it's just an album to me that sounds so different to what they were doing at the time, and I love it. It's like, you know, there's a documentary that Global Underground did for the Barcelona album, and James Lavelle, he's like, dude, I'm just like a music junkie, and I'm like, dude, I get it. This music's freaking insane. Going into some New Breed's top tier, Anthony Papa. Obviously, the music is amazing. I had a really special time interviewing him about this album, and I mean, what can be said about that freaking jacket? It's my favorite album cover ever. I think he looks like such a legend. And the music is just, Anthony, to me, if I had to rate mixers, like technical mixing ability, Anthony Papa is at the top. And the other person I put right up there is Tony DeVee. Because Tony DeVee's doing it with that hard house, high BPM. Anthony has a totally different style, but so freaking tight. And I mean, there's nobody better than him. Steve Lawler, New Breed, one of just an album that just personally jacks me up. I freaking love this one. It's so sultry. It's so sexy. It's so dark. He does it like, I mean, Erotica, Orgasm, all of these tracks are just so good, so twisted. If I was in the club when he dropped the set that inspired this mix, you'd have to like mop me up off the floor. I'd be dead. It'd be the sickest thing ever. So that's my S tier, and I think I'll get into my A tier too. I'll get into my A tier too. Why not? I was just gonna do S, but we'll do A as well. Okay. Sander Kleinenberg, New Breed, such a cool, warm mix. So many amazing tracks. I love his remix of Scorchio on this album. And I mean, it's no secret that I think Sander Kleinenberg is literally the coolest DJ of all time. So Sander's A level for me. Deep Dish, Toronto, 25. So I love like it's like such a cool version of progressive for me. It's like so developed. It's so, you know, come on. Situation 2's way too tight. It just like from the start just gets me feeling so good. Also, shout out to, you know, one of the guys that got me into this shit since I was 16 years old, Sultan, performs with my cousin Ned now. But, you know, his fingerprints, being a Canadian-based DJ at this time, his fingerprints are all over this mix. Night Visions. It's really one of my all-time favorites. Right next to it is GU21 for me. I'm not sure if a lot of people actually enjoy this track, but for me, it's amazing. Their remix of Dido that appears on this mix. It's such a cool track for me because the track's sick, obviously, but it's also such like an accessible track. So when I'm trying to show my friends that have never heard you know, the music from this era, what this is all about. It's such a good entry point song because everybody loves that track. Everybody loves Stand by Eminem that also uses that instrumental. But, you know, they take it up a notch with this mix. And it was their first entry into Global Underground. Obviously, they went all out. Paul Oakenfold, this is the GU4 in Oslo. I just love that. So versatile, right? Like, even now going back and being like, wow, Paul just like the entire first half of the first mix is drum and bass, right? And I'm pulling up the track list now because I want to see what that track is that he opens the whole mix up with. I have it right here. 1 second. Oh my gosh, how could I forget? Obviously, you know, to go from LTJ Buchum's music into Bedrock Set in Stone, just such a gnarly transition, such a freaking sick blend of styles, and just flipping the switch with Bedrock Set in Stone. That's just a moment that I'll always love. So I rate that album really highly. Dave Seaman, I think this is Buenos Aires right here. Yeah, pulling it up right now. Dave Seaman, Buenos Aires, GU12. Dave Seaman's first entry into this list, and he obviously didn't disappoint. I love opening up with that Francois K remix of Jumbo. So many tracks, you know, on this mix that I love, and I also love that he closes the mix with a track by The Light. Yeah, and, you know, Dave is a DJ that has my ultimate respect, and across all of his entries in Global Underground, he can't miss. Danny Tenaglia, GU, what is that, 17, GU 17 in London. I mean, of course, people rate this as highly as Athens. I have Athens just a little bit above London, but I love it. Oh my gosh. Nick Warren in Amsterdam. You know, I'm actually just going to bump this up to S. It's probably the mix that is growing on me the most since I first listened to it. I made like a reel that shows all of the tracks. And just as he like took it down tempo with Reykjavik, he like really slams it on this one. And yeah, that opening track, Weekend World, the word is one of my favorites. And there's also another one. Oh, Soul Mechanic, I'll Call You. Such a legendary track. And this is a mix that just keeps growing on me and growing on me and growing on me and growing on me every time I listen to it. So I bumped it up to S, where, yeah, I mean, it just belongs there. Satoshi Tomi, New Breed. Talk about an OG. From producing tracks to Frankie Knuckles, right when this was all starting, to just developing his style. There are very few producers and DJs that demand the respect that Satoshi Tomi does, and he just absolutely delivers on his New Breed. Personally, it's funny to me that he's considered a New Breed DJ because he was doing it for so long, but he nailed it. He nailed it. Dave Seaman in Melbourne. Okay, what I love about this mix, I obviously love the music, but I love the story behind it, because I think somebody pulled the fire alarm in the club, so they had to go outside, right? They had to go into, and this might be Buenos Aires, so don't quote me on this. And if it's on Buenos Aires, it just makes another reason why that album is so great. But Dave's Melbourne mix, I think it was his birthday, and I think they pulled the fire alarm on it, and I think they all sang to him happy birthday in the parking lot. So I love that moment. It's like a little thing you see in the album notes, but it just adds so much, to everything about the mix. We have Darren Emerson in Singapore and Darren Emerson in Uruguay. I think, like, I'm not like into choosing favorite DJs, but if you look at like a holistic body of work, you know, this guy, obviously a superstar DJ, obviously an underworld, and like talk about like all around contribution to the music and all around, you know, musical taste and ability. Darren Emerson for me is at like the top of the list. I just have mad respect to him, and I enjoyed the fuck out of both of those mixes. So yeah, they're both A for me. Nick Warren in Paris, GU30. What I love about this is, you know, as you get up and up and up in Global Underground, it's like different strokes for different folks. But like this was one of the later albums in the series that just shines. And I've been listening to it a lot recently. I love it. And, you know, Nick can't miss. He's done 8 of these, but it's just so cool to me to hear how different even Prague to Reykjavik to Amsterdam to Paris to Lima to Budapest, whatever you want to say. Like, his range is so amazing, and I love that mix. Danny Howell's New Breed, no brainer for me. Like, this mix is just so awesome. Lee Burridge 24/7 was something that was very different for me hearing, but I think it's just like I don't know, Lee's like kind of, he's got that different style. He bucks the trends. I mean, down here, look at his freaking New Breed album. He's definitely the only DJ to ever smile on a GU album cover. I guess maybe Nick Warren in Shanghai. Maybe that's like a tinge of smiling. You have Dubfire screaming down here. But no, I think Lee Burridge is super cool. And yeah. Okay. I'm showing mad love to Seb Fontaine. And I love all of the prototypes. Think about this. In a roster, right? In a roster full of legends, John, Sasha, Danny, Nick, Paul, freaking, you have GU giving their first standalone series to Seb Fontaine, and there's a reason, you know, there's a reason for that, and he crushed it. And again, like, I'm just giving Seb a lot of love right now. He's also a DJ that I think, and you kind of hear this on the first one, like, he's a DJ, maybe it's his allegiance to Cream. He's been pulled, kind of, you can feel the tentacles of the mainstream, like, trying to pull him into that mainstream shit. Like, he has, you know, some tracks on that first one, and he just progressively gets more and more underground as the prototypes come out. Like, Prototype 4 is a fucking underground mix, and I love it. Yo, shout out to you, Seb. I'd love to interview you one day if you see this. You're the man. Danny Howell's 24/7 again. He just destroys me with these daytime mixes, just like in a GU27 Miami. Danny Howell's daytime mix on his 24/7 album is one of my favorite mixes ever laid down. So A for me. Steve Lawler, Dark Drums 1. I just think it's like a combination of his reverence for Danny and just the way that he kind of like blends that tribal New York sound with what's going on in Europe too. And he just, I mean, that for me personally, I just really, really love that Dark Drums series, especially the first one. And I think he's super deserving to have that. And then finally for me is, this wasn't a city series, or it wasn't a, it wasn't a city series and it wasn't a New Breed, but it was a Global Underground release. And that is Sasha's Involver. And I just think this was an album completely ahead of its time, like Air Drawn Dagger era. And it's just Sasha pushing the technological limits, applying his artistry to the advancement of technology during this time. So cool. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's doing a lot of work with Charlie May, obviously, at this time. And I think either on, maybe not on this specific album, but during this era, maybe on this album, but during this era, he's also working with Junkie XL. And that spooky track on the Involver album is one of my all-time favorites. And I also love the packaging because it comes with like a trait, like basically like a square card for every track. And Sasha gives a little backstory about how each track came to be and the remixing methods behind it. And yeah, it wasn't like a mix compilation. Like this is like this new kind of remix album that he did. And it was really cool for me. And yeah. So again, I just wanted to go over my S and A tier. I could be here all night talking about these mixes, but again, this is me just sharing my opinion, and everybody on this list has my absolute massive respect. It's not a drag at all. It's just, you know, everybody on this list has done legendary work, and I just chose to rank their Global Underground efforts. So yeah, but so this like tier thing is called tiermaker.com. I uploaded this Global Underground tiering. So I'm going to put the link to this in the bio of this video. And I would love to see your guys, you know, how you guys would fill out. Take a screenshot, send it to me. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. Tell me like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. I honestly don't know what I'm talking about. I'm only like, you know, 2 years. It's been like 2 years since my cousin Ned gifted me his old Global Underground set, like collection. And I've been introduced to all this. But yeah, I can't get enough. And hopefully, if anything, this is a discussion starter. This entices you to go back and listen to some of these mixes. And it was definitely a lot of fun to do. So mad respect to all the artists. Mad respect to all you fans out there keeping, you know, the spirit of this era alive. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. Hopefully, I'll do this definitely again with some other types of series and stuff like that. But this was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun. Thanks a lot. Peace out.